every single day, and he was a guy that, you know, I'm elated to see him having the success he is and being able to contribute and be their lead back. So good for him. We don't overlook anybody. I mean, every year 1AA beats Division I, and usually multiple times. You already saw it this past weekend. Montana State got a win, even though they were the favorite team. It still happens, and so we are very aware that we've got to play good football, and our focus is on us completely this week and playing our game and playing up to our potential and making sure that we, you know, like I said, don't get complacent and don't think that we don't need to show up, because we do. We're going to have to come out and play well.
Do you have a third team quarterback?
We do. Right now it'd be Brandon Rose, and it's you know, Sam Heward has been really making progress, but again, it's, you know, we're established at 1 and 2 right now, but Sam is pressing for that number 3 spot, and if something happened where we got to that spot, it would probably be a competition between Brandon and Sam to see who ultimately is the guy.
Kyle, in-helmet communication has been something that's been newly adopted into college football. I'm curious, as somebody that's been coaching for such a long time, how are you guys sort of navigating that this season on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, we've been using it from day one of fall camp, and I think it's a very positive thing. It should have been implemented years ago, in my opinion, as should have the 2-minute warning and everything else we're behind on in college football with the NFL. Eventually, if the NFL's doing it, eventually we'll do it. And I don't know why there's such a lag period, but there is. But we see it as a big positive, and again, we've been doing it not only in scrimmages, but every practice. We've got the communication going both offensively and defensively, and it's much more advantageous offensively for us. It's not as big a deal defensively, because we signal in the whole, you know, we don't huddle on defense, so everyone's got to look over and see the signals, because you can only have the one guy with the earpiece. But on offense, it's been a real plus for us. I'm not going to say it's a game changer or anything like that, because we're not a no huddle team, and so we'll you know, we've had good communication in the past with our signals, and we don't feel like we've been compromised with signal stealing. But it just makes it a cleaner process and better for the quarterback to be able to hear exactly what the offensive coordinator is thinking.
Kyle, back here. I know that we've spoken about it at fall camp, we've spoken about him, but the return of a healthy Brant Keithley, I know also Cam Rising as well, but how are you feeling going into week 1 of your season, knowing that you've got these guys healthy on your offense?
Yeah, well, he's a weapon for us, and he's looked great in practice. We've been trying to be, we have been intelligent with how we've used him. We have given him a few practices off here and there just to make sure that we don't overdo it. But he is arguably, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 receiving tight ends in the nation. And he's a tough matchup for defenses. And when you look at that position room is loaded. We got 6 guys that could maybe start anywhere in the Big 12 right now. That's how deep that is. The 2 deepest positions on our football team, defensive end and tight end. And and the Caleb Lohner kid has really done some exceptional things in fall camp. Now we got to, you know, see how he'll react in the game and you know what he can do there. But between Brant, Caleb, Carson Ryan, Darren Bentley, Landon King, missing one, I believe. But hey, we got a whole room full of guys that are very talented, and you're going to see a bunch of multiple tight end formations in our schemes this year.
Along the same lines of the NFL question a little bit ago, the importance of a general
Mickey Sugataranga. That's the other guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's racking my brain. Was just spinning at its slow speed that it goes at now.
But the importance of a general manager now in college football and embracing more player personnel. How have you guys handled that and embraced that? It's
an absolute necessity now. I don't know how you can do it without it, unless you're a team that had no NIL resources. I guess maybe they don't need one. But in this day and age of college football, you not only need a general manager, but a chief of staff, which we hired a couple weeks back. And so general manager is invaluable to, it's the same, on the same level and the same equivalency as the GMs in the NFL. I mean, you couldn't do without them. And so it's been a huge plus for us. Robert Blecken is our GM. It has been from since we filled the position. I guess it's going on 3 years now, 2 or 3 years. But in order to keep all the finances and everything straight, and all the make sure everything's operating as it should in that space, and namely the NIL space, it's an absolute must. And then, like I said, chief of operations is or chief of staff is a all-encompassing. What it does is takes a lot off my plate. All the subdivision, football ops, recruiting, social media, everything can be overseen by the chief of staff. And so our org chart, or whatever you call them, is really streamlined things. And fortunately, our administration has allowed us to bring in a general manager and a chief of staff, and that's where it's headed. It's the more, again, it's looking more like the NFL. Everything continues to look more like the NFL on and off the field.
Final questions, Josh?
Oh, I'm just getting on a roll. Okay. Need to wear shades. My future's so bright.
Kyle, obviously a win is important, but what as a coach are you looking for to show success in that first game?
Clean football game, executing the way that we should execute, limiting penalties, just the whole mechanism of substitution, the special teams functions, everything, the whole operation needs to be clean, and that's what we're really looking for. Is no delay of games, minimize false starts, just those sloppy penalties that can show up, particularly early in the season. We'd like to get a great start on all that stuff. Thank you, everybody. Yep. Are the Eagles playing at the Sphere yet?
You can ask him right now.
Anybody know? Not yet? When is that going to happen?
It's next month.
That's my birthday question.
Big Eagle.
Kyle Whittingham finishes his first presser of the year asking about the Eagles concert going to Vegas at that Sphere, that MGM Sphere.
That's so Kyle, though.
The man loves his rock music.
He does. He really does. If you ever see him in the wild, he's in some sort of a band shirt at all times, and that's why he's one of my favorite people on the entire planet.
Alonzo only likes people who share his interests.
You know what? I don't like some of the bands he listens to, though. So I mean, I just respect the hustle, OC. Okay.
You don't like some of the bands that Kyle Whittingham listens to? Does he have like?
No, I don't like Guns N' Roses all that much.
You don't like Guns N' Roses?
No.
15-yard penalty to start the week, to start the show. Are you serious?
We've had this conversation, Sean.
It's terrible. You're putting it out there like that? All right. That's fine. That's fine. Kyle Whittingham, he wanted to keep going. That's not going to be the case every single week. But, look, the season is back. Football season for the University of Utah. Thursday, we kick this thing off. Our long national nightmare of no college football is over. Week 0 games already played. Already big upset. Top 10 team, which really shows you how worthless preseason rankings are. And I say that knowing that our favorite team here is being treated kindly in preseason rankings. They're just manufactured ideas, and probably less accurate now than they ever have been because of the mobility of rosters and how fluid everything is. College football preseason rankings that Kyle Whittingham, the man we just heard from, has laughed at so aggressively for a long time are now less valuable than they've ever been. And Florida State, look, everyone dancing on DJU's grave on Sunday was just mean, and I don't like it. I won't stand for it. It's messed up.
I see what you did there, though. I won't stand for it.
The young man who is now at his third Power 5 program, Power 4 program, I still have to get used to saying. Clemson didn't work out. Oregon State. Hey, look, he played well at Oregon State. He improved their quarterback situation at Oregon State. And then obviously when they fell off the map because college football reshuffled itself with the only real major difference being that they just kicked Washington State and Oregon State out of the club. DJU decided he's going to go to Florida State. And at Florida State, he had some struggles in this game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, by the way, not a bad team. This is not the old rambling wreck that you're used to. All right? They know what they're doing now. They run the ball a lot, but they're not giving you triple options. They're not underutilizing Calvin Johnson anymore. That Haynes kid, their quarterback, he's solid. And another testament to why the transfer portal, when used the way that it was intended to be used, can really be something. Haynes King is a guy that, look, he wasn't going to be the starter. He wasn't going to be what he wanted to be. He wasn't going to have the career he wanted to have at Texas A&M. He ends up at a place like Georgia Tech, and it's a massive improvement for them. Trickle-down economics or whatever you want to call it. 877-353-0700. It is game week on the Sean O'Connell Show. The Dish Pros text line is open. How you feeling? What you thinking? Hearing from Kyle Whittingham saying this, all right? Cornerback, CB, defensive back, is the thinnest position on the team. He has repeatedly told us defensive end and tight end are the deepest positions. We see the depth chart that they put out, and we're going to decode its precious secrets all throughout the show today. The Utah football depth chart that was released. There's a lot of things in there that are telling you the story of this college football season. Scott Mitchell is going to join me in about 10 minutes, 7 minutes, and we're going to get to some of that. But Kyle Whittingham just said corner, probably the thinnest position on this team. And I went like this.
Did all the joy just exhale your body? Just exit?
I went,
The boogeyman? Do you agree with him?
I mean, yeah, like on paper, it makes sense. And by the way, corner is physically the hardest position to play on a football field. It's not the most physical, but from a you have to have abilities that nobody else on the field has kind of standpoint, cornerback is, I think, the most demanding. Obviously, QB, everyone talks about it, right? You got to know everything. You got to be great now at running and passing, et cetera, et cetera. But look, man, to be a corner, especially a corner at Utah, where they're going to tell you, hey, you live on an island. We're not going to put you on an island. You live on an island. All right? I hope you brought some pigs and chickens with you. I hope that you have a sustainable food source and that you are able to divine for water because you are going to live on that island. When I hear him say, that's probably the thinnest position group on my team, I'm like, oh, no, don't say that. Cam Calhoun is going to come back. He's probably, you're not going to see him this week. Hopefully next week, Baylor, Utah State, something like that. John Randall, as he said, physical freak, a guy who has great testing numbers, moving him from the running back position. Mekhi Bernard can play it in a pinch. We know that. Ooh, I don't like hearing it, but I'm gonna focus on the positives. Okay,
trying to keep it optimistic.
Yeah.
I forgot to text you this weekend and ask, did you put up your Christmas tree to celebrate the holidays?
Happy return of college football to all who celebrate. It's not Christmas tree season, but like the wardrobe shift is happening. I don't know how you handle it in your house. I don't know if there's like, you put the winter clothes down in the closet downstairs, or if you throw them into bags so that you have more room for the summer clothes. I just throw them all, crumple them all, throw them in a corner in the closet. But now I'm pulling out the football stuff, man. All right, the 49ers gear's coming back out. The Utes gear's got to come back out. I got to freshen up the selection a little bit, my Utes threads. So I went once already over to the bookstore, made sure that everyone gets their, my middle daughter, my almost 3-year-old, wanted a cheerleader outfit. I was like, oh, let's get you like a uniform of some kind. You were like, we'll get you like a basketball jersey. She's like, cheerleader. Okay, all right. Pick your battles.
Started playing some Howard Cosell around the house just to get the seasons going.
Not a big Cosell guy.
Really?
Yeah, he's fine.
Is it because he bashed Joe Montana for a long time?
You can't bash Joe Montana and get away with it in my mind. I'm actually bothered that Tom Brady made it undeniable that he's the greatest. Like he took away the debate in that conversation that he's the greatest quarterback to ever play. And Patrick Mahomes, I think, also probably has surpassed Joe Montana at this point, which pains me to say because that was my favorite thing to do. Everyone, oh, Peyton Manning, John Elway. No. Tom Brady when he only had like 3 Super Bowls, but he had lost a couple. It's like the Michael Jordan thing. But old Joe Montana, you can't call him the greatest quarterback of all time anymore. Anyway.
My wife would call Tom Brady Tom Baby, and we can't do that in the house anymore either because he's the GOAT.
He was kind of a cheater though with the Deflategate thing.
Kind of.
So I'm gonna roll with that for the rest of my days, I think. That's gonna be the asterisk I put on there. It's gonna be a wonderful week on the Sean O'Connell Show. Scott Mitchell, Jeff Schwartz, John Canzano on the show today. We gave you Kyle Whittingham's sound. By the way, Alonzo, twice during the press conference, like the annoying host I am, I was like, make sure you clip that out. I need that cut up.
With signs and everything, too.
Yeah. Sign language, doing the scissor motion. Clip that. We already got some sound bites. If I'm Dorian Singer and I'm listening to the head coach of the football team that I transferred into talking about me like that, I'm saying it's going to be a great year for me. They are going to feed me the rock. If Kyle Whittingham is telling the media before a game is played, this guy does things in practice that has the whole coaching staff just looking at each other like, oh, wow, look at that. Kyle Whittingham, who's been the head coach here for 20 years, is impressed by you in that way, you're going to have a great year.
And Kyle's not easy to impress.
He's so unimpressed by everything.
Oh, that's a Ferrari? That's okay.
Like, Kyle Whittingham, I think that's music is the only thing that impresses the guy.
I think you're right.
That's why he's a big food guy. All right?
He is.
I think that the turning point in my relationship with Kyle Whittingham, and he's probably like, there is no turning point in our relationship. You're a freaking scrub, and you always will be in my eyes. But I think for me, the turning point in my relationship with Kyle Whittingham is when I'm working for SiriusXM doing the Pac-12 show, we got invited, because technically national media, got invited to the coaches' dinner at Pac-12 Media Days. And they have, they walk around with hors d'oeuvres. And everyone else is being classy and is just like, they'll grab one little bite, one little spinach and feta puff, one tiny meatball on a toothpick skewer, and then they politely decline. And they're holding their rocks glass with some, I don't know, what's your drink? You're a Crown and Coke guy, probably.
Crown and Coke.
And everyone's sipping. And I don't drink alcohol. Kyle Whittingham doesn't drink alcohol, right? So if you're getting your money's worth out of an event like that, how do you get it, Alonzo?
Free food.
You eat. Okay? So Kyle Whittingham is the dude, and I think I was the only other one in the room that every time that tray comes past, yep, give me one. Yes, I'll have another.
So your knob was still green, like at a...
Always. Yes. The little indicator at the full churrasco, the rodizio, or the Tejas de Brasil, or whichever. Yeah, Fogo de Chão, whichever of those Brazilian steakhouses you go to. You keep that thing on green. That's Kyle Whittingham. And when you're standing there having conversations and you're the only two people in the room that are just shoving meatballs and bacon wrapped shrimp and asparagus bites and whatever else into your face, there's a bond.
Gives a new meaning to all gas, no brakes.
Yes. I see what you did, and I appreciate it. All right. Kyle Whittingham's first press conference. We'll give you some takeaways throughout the day. On the negative side, he says the cornerback room is the thinnest on the team. I don't like hearing that, but I guess someone's got to be thinnest on the team. I wish it was just like long snapper that was the thinnest on the team. On the positive end, he's raving about Dorian Singer, a man who is so impossible to impress. So I love that. We got to take a quick one here. Scott Mitchell, the lefty. He's going to join us on the other side. You'll hear him on Thursday night as part of our radio broadcast right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
First and 20 for Utah. They throw the screen out here to Keithy on the near sideline. He's beyond the 30. Keithy stays on his feet and gets beyond the 35 to the 36-yard line. So he picks up a good chunk of yards on that play. Picks up about 10. Not a bad run that time by Keithy after the catch. Almost the 37-yard line. Second down and 14 coming up for Keithy and the Utah offense. And again, not settling for the run, Scott.
Utah spread it out, and you watch this USC defense, and they've got to play it more honest, and guys are open and guys are making plays.
Two tight ends, two wide receivers. Pledger the back of the backfield with Cam Rising. Here we go. Handoff. TJ play. Oh, fumble. Ball's on the turf. Did Rising fall on it? I think he did.
Ruling is a fumble recovered by the offense. Second down.
That was a zone read, and Cam got caught in between the run and the handoff, and luckily he was able to fall on the football. They actually fell forward and picked up about a yard and a half, 2 yards, so third down and 12 coming up here for Utah.
Yeah, and he really, Cam really should have handed the ball off.
Pledger'd still be running.
Yeah, he just the end was out, and he just should have handed the ball, and he didn't. And maybe tried to do a little bit too much right there.
So third down and 12 here for Utah. They've got to get to right at midfield. Rising, backpedals to pass. Four-man rush here for USC. Cam's going to try and run away from it, and he's going to be sacked. He took off really early there. I think he saw everybody running the other way and thought he could pick it up with his legs. But Tuipulotu grabbed him and sacked him, and that'll bring up fourth down.
Sometimes when you're in the pocket, it'll feel like it opens up to the inside, and you got to let the rush come around you even more. If he's going to do that, he's got to be a little bit more
Number
patient.
19 is now wearing number 96.
So Cam Peasley on the punt. Gary Bryant stands at his own 16-yard line, awaits this Peasley punt. Let's see if SC comes after it. They will. Here they come. Kick is nearly blocked. Good spiraling kick away. Bryant will take it at the 19. And he'll be taken down back at the 15-yard line. What a special teams tackle by Zamaya Vaughn.
Timeout on the field.
That takes us to a timeout with 12:44 to play. All Utah so far. 35-10 Utes. Tonight's University of Utah football broadcast from here in Los Angeles in the Memorial Coliseum. Brought to you by Great Clips, proud sponsors of the Utes. Would like to get you in, out, and back to greatness by downloading the Great Clips app online. Great Clips, it's going to be great. I'm Bill Riley. That's Scott Mitchell next to me. Slides downstairs, and Utah in control here with 12:44 to play. It's Utah 35 and USC 10. Utah has scored 28 unanswered points in this game, Scott. They were down 10-7. And since then, they've scored 4 touchdowns, and SC hasn't sniffed the end zone.
And it was all really a play. It was that third down to Theo Howard that Utah took a shot, and it just kind of electrified everything.
It opened everything up.
It really did. It just opened everything up, and then everyone just seemed to get sparked by it offensively and defensively. I mean, this defense has just played really, really solid this whole game.
What little crowd was here today has taken off. Most of the adult fans, the students are still over there having some fun here at the Memorial Coliseum. 85-yard field here for Keaton Slovis and USC. First and 10 from their own 15-yard line. Darwin Barlow, the back of the backfield. 4 wide receivers right here for the USC Trojans. They hand it to Barlow, bouncing off 1 and 2 and 3 tackles. He gets to the outside, then he's cut down. Boy, oh boy. Kamoy Latu, freshman out of Hawaii, getting a start tonight, Scott, making the most of it.
Yeah, a lot of these young players have really stepped it up.
On YouTube.
Zamaya Vaughn.
Like and subscribe. Follow the station account. Hopefully you're also following the newly minted Sean O'Connell Show Twitter account. So we're giving people a lot of things to follow here. At OC Show 801, by the way, is the tag. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alonzo, took some doing to get that dialed in.
Yeah, apparently there's a bunch of OC show and or OC 801 handles, which is weird.
Really? There's a lot of OC 801 handles?
Yeah, so I think we need to sue some people.
We might need to do like a reunion of sorts. Everyone who's got one gets invited.
VIP party at the station.
But really what we're doing is we're just bringing them here so we can bully them into giving us their Twitter handle.
We will give you a slice of pizza for your Twitter handle.
All right, I want to talk with the radio analyst that you will hear on all Utah football games throughout this season. He'll be, of course, sitting alongside the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley. Down on the sidelines will be Stevenson Sylvester. We're lucky to have such a great broadcast crew. Former quarterback, still for now at least, atop the record books in things like career passing touchdowns, career passing yards, most passing yards in a game. Scott Mitchell, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Scott, welcome. How are you? Hello? Baxter, is that you?
Let me figure this out. Give me a second.
Okay. Minor technical difficulty. We'll get Scott when we need to here in just a moment. As always, OC Show is brought to you by Les Schwab. They got tires, wheels, accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab, and the professionals will get the job done right, and they'll get it done right the first time. Tell them that OC sent you. As we effort Scott Mitchell, a couple other takeaways from Kyle Whittingham's press conference. Now, in speaking with Cam about this, how much is he going to run? Hey, it's still going to be part of the game. We're still going to do it. Kyle Whittingham just straight up said, no, you're not going to see as much design QB run. It's not going to happen. Not going to see as much of it. And none of us are surprised by that. But to hear it vocalized by the head coach, who is usually so close to the vest, with his game plans, with his philosophy on offense, with whatever, that was interesting for me to hear, stating perhaps the obvious for a lot of the Utah football fans out there. Also, there's been conversations about being judicious was the word that Kyle Whittingham used. Being judicious with your effort. And this is where I tweeted out, I don't believe it, right? Because I think there's just Cam Rising when it's third and short, Cam Rising when it's 4th and 4 and they decide to go for it and he takes off out of the pocket. Cam Rising is not that dude who is going to be like, all right, let me slide and we'll punt and live to fight another day. I mean, maybe early in the game, maybe if you're up 3 scores, maybe if you got a 10-point lead, whatever it is, maybe Cam Rising has an easy time with that. It's going to be hard for him because we know what kind of competitor he is to put that into practice. I suppose it depends on how sore the knee is, that surgically repaired knee. But Kyle Whittingham said the leg is good to go. Glad to hear it. Trying to remain realistic about what it means for Brant Keithy to be back, with Cam Rising to be back. But in talking with folks, I was down in Provo. My wife's family lives in Provo, so I'm down there in Cougar Country and talking with some guys that are close to the program, big supporters of the program. And we talked about how, I think BYU's underrated. I think BYU's not being treated fairly necessarily in the preseason polls and things like that, at least at the conference level. And also discussing how you have to kind of like armor yourself as a Utah fan against the outsized expectations that so many of us are prone to having when you look at this roster and you look at this depth chart. And I've been promising that we would decode the meaning of the depth chart. Well, Kyle Whittingham did a little bit of that for us. Because this offense listed 2 tight end positions on the depth chart, okay? You've got the Y tight end and the U tight end. Go back 7 years. Go back to Kyle Whittingham when he started as the head coach at the University of Utah, and when the depth chart came out, there was just a tight end, right? And that was 2 people Maybe the third was mentioned. I don't know. You've got the Y tight end. Dallin Bentley is listed as the starter. Carson Ryan next, or Miki Sugaturaga. There's a lot of ors on this Utah depth chart. The first one released. The first, I guess, active game week season one released. Brant Keithy, Landon King, or Caleb Lohner. So, decoding what this means, you have 6 tight ends listed on a depth chart. That means you have 6 guys that you are sending the subtle message to, we're going to use you, be ready to play, that or next to your name. And all of us knew that Landon King, Brant Keithy, Carson Ryan were going to be part of the offense. All right? Shout out to whoever it was, if you're listening right now, when I was asking, I think on my very first show coming back, July 8th, I think I asked you for your breakout players in this offense and your breakout player in this defense. And I had at least one person who was like, hey, guys, it's going to be Dallin Bentley. Dallin Bentley emerging in the room that he is in to have the bold print on the depth chart, it says a lot about what he has done. It says a lot about his effort. These are college players, so you don't gas him up for fame, but he is the least prominent name maybe on this whole offense that has the starting bold print next to his or attached to his name. What do you have for me?
Working on getting our guy Scott. We got new toys here, so we're working through.
Yeah. We should give a shout out to our engineers.
Absolutely. Shout out to Trent and Eric and George, who spent like 200 hours over the weekend to get this all up and running.
Yes. We got some new soundboards, some digital soundboards in. We got, some fresh equipment. And you know what? We're going to get it working. It's probably user error. It's Eric just says it's never going to work.
That's the optimism of our engineering team.
Well, never mind, everybody. We'll be all right. Back to Dallin Bentley, back to this tight end room. You've got 6 guys listed, and we've been talking about this for months, that this tight end room is one of the deepest positions, not only on this team. This is one of the deepest position groups in the conference, maybe the country. If I told you, hey, Landon King is unavailable this week, you're going to be like, oh, too bad. We're fine. If I said, Brant Keithy, they're going to hold him out of the SUU game because they want to keep his knee safe, you'd say, that's fine. Other guys are going to get it done. Dallin Bentley, Carson Ryan, Miki Sugaturaga, Brant Keithy, Landon King, Caleb Lohner, and that's the most interesting one for me. That's the fine print that you got to read. Caleb Lohner has been in this Utah football program for 5 minutes, and they've already mentioned his name dozens and dozens of times. This guy and his potential and his ability have impressed this coaching staff to the point where they didn't even put him as a third-string guy. They had to throw the or next to his name. This is a message to the player and to the fan base that's willing to read. We're going to use this guy. You're going to see him. And for Caleb Lohner, it's probably going to be special goal line packages. It's probably going to be the red zone, whatever. But this is a converted basketball player who has not put on pads since he was like 11, and he's going to be part of your game plan. All right. Do we have Scott Mitchell now? Scott, are you there? Yes, Scott Mitchell. I love hearing your beautiful dulcet tones. How are you? Great. It's game week, as you are well aware. The anticipation, look, you went through it for so many years as a player. Now you're doing it as a broadcaster. Is there anything like game week, the return of a college football season? we're just decoding the messages in the depth chart that was released. We see the pre-camp depth charts, and it is what it is. And now this is, at least for the expectations the coaching staff is setting, both for the roster and the fan base. What we see, Scott, in my opinion, is a team full of weapons, and a team full of offensive weapons that I don't think we have had even in years where this Utah roster won a Pac-12 conference championship or when they challenged for a Pac-12 conference championship. You look at the tight end room is where I was focused, and they've taken it upon themselves to list out 6 guys who are going to be part of the game plan. You played at every level. You played at the highest level. Did you ever have 6 tight ends that you're like, yeah, if I need to, I can throw them a touchdown pass?
He's interesting because he's gotten their attention. And to get Coach Whittingham's attention, and really to get Andy Ludwig's attention, especially at tight end, you must be doing something right. You must be doing something special. These offensive guys are going up against a very good defense, good linebackers and safeties for Utah. And to have Caleb Lohner in a short period of time get into the mix of things says something about these coaches are high. And to your point about him being maybe a specialized player, he has to be. I mean, I don't see him coming in and just being, an every down guy, whether, it's those unique situations that are going to take advantage of his height. I think Andy Ludwig does a nice job when he has a special talent, whether it's a speed guy that gets out on the edge or a mismatch from height. You'll take any offense, any advantage you can get anywhere. So it'll be fun to watch, see how Caleb Lohner, and quite frankly, it'll be fun to watch the tight ends in general because there's so much you could do with the group. I mean, I'm just, it may be a new trend in college football where you bring in your 5 tight end group. I don't know, but it'd be fun to see.
What do you need to see this team accomplish in a week 1 game against Southern Utah? The anticipation is it'll be a blowout. Does it need to be in order for it to be a quality performance? We lost him. Where'd he go? All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll try to figure out what's going on with the phone lines. Again, new equipment installed over the weekend here, but you're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. And as always, your Utes Insiders are brought to you by Metro Elevator. So if you live or work in a building that's got an elevator that does not seem to cooperate, call Utah's preferred vertical transportation experts at 801-946-7003, 801-946-7003. Metro Elevator, and tell them OC sent you. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
Cam Rising at the line of scrimmage, changing the play. Jordan Noyes has it teed off on the north 35-yard line. He'll kick to the south. And we're ready to play football here tonight at Rice-Eccles Stadium. A high end-over-end kick that will go into the end zone and be returned. And now they'll say a touchback. He gave the sign for the fair catch. That was Rashad White, and then he decided to bring it out. You can't do that, so ASU will have it 1st and 10 at their own 25-yard line, and we will see for the first time tonight the guy that committed to Utah that changed his mind. That's quarterback Jaden Daniels, a 6'3 junior who's really good, Scott, a dual-threat quarterback.
Yeah, he's going to be a challenge for Utah. He's a guy that can throw the ball very accurately, and he can also make and extend plays running the football. So it'll be interesting to see how Utah handles him tonight.
It won't be White, though, that starts out in the backfield. It'll be Tranum that will be in the backfield. Chip takes it. Play action pass. Daniels looking down the field, throwing down the field. Is it caught? It is. Ricky Pearsall makes the grab on the near sideline for a gain of, what are they going to call it, 12 yards and a first down. So a little play action on first down. Pearsall gets both feet down, and a 12-yard gain here for the Devils.
Okay.
First down and 10. They'll move it to the 37-yard line. Utah with a 4-man down front. They'll spread the field with 4 wide receivers. Daniels this time will hand off. Right side, pushing the pile forward to about the 40-yard line and a gain of 3. Decent run on the play that time by Arizona State off that right-hand side.
Yeah, that's a good sign there by Utah. Playing downhill early in this game is so important for this defense. You can't let this offensive line get into these linebackers in the second level.
Train on the back of the backfield on 2nd down and 7 from the ASU 40, and Utah crowding the line of scrimmage. Daniels now changing the play. 2 tights and 2 wides here for the Devils as Daniels operates out of the gun. He'll scramble to his right and get into the open field beyond the 45 and diving out near midfield to about the 50-yard line. He picks up 10 yards. That's what he can do. Simple zone read that time. And the tackle by Fabian Marks in the open field. First down for ASU.
Yeah, and Utah had the play covered. They had 9 guys at line of scrimmage. Should have had that play.
Here we go. They're going to throw the flanker screen to the outside. It's caught there. Through some traffic and down is Brian Thompson with just his 4th catch of the year. The former Ute picks up 4 yards to the Utah 46-yard line.
Yeah, and that's something that USC did fairly effective is this bubble screen, and I'm sure Utah's going to see a heavy dose of it.
5 wide look now, and Daniels backpedals to pass. Pressure coming, firing over the middle. He's got the underneath man beyond the 40 to the 35-yard line. Ricky Pearsall again. And another good pickup, that time for ASU. Picking up 12, making 11 more yards, and a first down to the Utah 35. They're having no trouble, Scott, on this opening drive moving the football.
Yeah, and it's just, it's not just high percentage, quick throwing, quick hitting runs.
Now back to OC on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
3 wide, the tight end. Train him in the backfield. He'll now motion to the right-hand side of Jaden Daniels. Utah rushing 5 this time. Daniels surveys, scrambles out to his right, looks down the field, fires behind his man, incomplete. Trying to get that to Curtis Hodges, who's kind of a hybrid tight end wide receiver look. He's one of their leading wide receivers. Incomplete. That time a little bit of pressure on Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and Utah brings a corner blitz here, and really it's kind of a run blitz, but just a little bit behind his wide receiver, Jaden Daniels. But again, you move him in the pocket a little bit, make him a little bit nervous, show him these different looks. And over time, that stuff kind of wears on you as a quarterback.
3 wide, a tight end, and now a tailback. Trainham has been the guy so far. Makes you wonder if Rashad White's going to play here tonight. Hand off Trainham. Nope, Daniels on that right-hand side. Bounces to the outside. He's cut down. Now a flag flies. We may have a holding call coming against ASU here as they upend Daniels out of bounds at about.
Scott, hello. Hello, Scott Mitchell. All right. You know what? Scott, thank you. We're going to talk to Scott later in the week. He's not here at this moment. All right? As much as I would love to just shout questions into the ether at Scott Mitchell, John Canzano is supposed to join us in 4 minutes on the show. And Scott's going to be real patient about technical difficulties and whatnot. John Canzano does like 30 different radio interviews a day. And if we don't get this figured out, then Alonzo's going to get an earful from John. Maybe. Probably not. John's actually really mellow and cool. But in any case, I am being facetious, by the way. Our entire engineering team has dedicated a lot of their time and effort into making sure we're up and running, and I appreciate all of it. For the sake of this depth chart that was put out, and again, like the coaching staff is not telling you the full story about their offense or their defense with the depth chart, especially this coaching staff. They're trying to be coy. They're trying to tell you, we're going to use this many guys. The running back picture Kyle Whittingham has talked about really for a couple of weeks now has sorted itself not into perfect clarity. Mekhi Bernard, for all of you who are weighing in on Twitter, I put the question out, hey, what is your favorite thing about this depth chart? What's your least favorite thing about this depth chart? And the running back situation is being talked about as a worry for some people. Relax. I will reiterate something I said for you 2 weeks ago. Practice is not the time for running backs to separate themselves from one another. It isn't. Gameplay is what is going to determine who this coaching staff trusts to touch the football. Mekhi Bernard, Mike Mitchell, Jalen Glover, Hunter Andrews, Charlie Vincent, Dijon Stanley. He's the guy who's between the tiers right now. He's not all the way in that first tier of running backs, but he's so fast and dynamic that you got to find ways to get the ball in his hands. He's got his own package of plays. That's encouraging for me. Gameplay, and most importantly, number one in the gospel of Kyle Whittingham, ball security. Whichever of these guys gives you 3 yards in a cloud of dust and does not fumble the football becomes RB1. All right? That's how it's going to work. Don't be alarmed. Don't be worried. The running back situation will sort itself out. Quinton Ganther is a great coach. He is not going to let you down. This room is not going to let you down. Everything's going to be fine in the running back room. If you're talking to me, Alonzo, I'm hearing nothing. I see your lips moving, but there's no sound coming out. And it's not a funny joke to do ventriloquist kind of stuff. You're not a mime today. Hour 2 begins next with John Canzano, Bald-Faced Truth. He caught up with Kyle Whittingham, who, again, laid out his opinion, his thoughts on what college football looks like in the future. But the future's coming. Game week is here now. We'll talk about that with John Canzano in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
White stays in the ball game, is the tailback. Daniels in the backfield. He'll backpedal to pass. Surveys, fires, outside, caught, and is it caught? Jalen Conyers there. Boy, I thought he juggled that going to the ground. They'll say that's a catch as he picks up 6 yards at the 12-yard line and a first down.
Yeah, and Utah didn't even have anyone on him at all. But, yeah, it's a catch. He got it completely in his grasp.
So first down and 10 for Arizona State on the opening drive of the ball game. To the Utah 12 they go. Turn and a toss sweep to the left-hand side. They've got a man at the 10. They've got a man at the 5. That's Pearsall. And a flag flies. I think we're going to have another holding penalty here on ASU.
Holding. Offense. Number 74.
Yep, they're going to get Casey Hatch. Another one of those hybrid wide receiver tight ends on the hold that time. That erased what would have been about a 4-yard gain inside the 10 to Pearsall. And back it up now outside the 20-yard line.
Yeah, and you hold on that edge like that, it's pretty easy for that official to see. So if you're going to hold, you got to hold on the inside, guard area.
First down and 20, back at the 22-yard line. Daniels Hands, running back, near side, running room, inside the 10. And all the way down to the 8-yard line goes Rachaad White. Fabian Marks on the tackle again. He's been busy here early. Pickup of 14 yards on the play. 2nd down and 6 now. Daniels empties the backfield, backpedals into the shotgun. 3 wide right, 2 wide left here for Daniels. Surveys, looks, scrambles out to his right-hand side, throws to the end zone, back of the end zone, caught and dropped. Oh, he had a man open. That was Andre Johnson who had it on the back line and dropped it. That'll bring up 3rd down.
Yeah, right now this pace that Arizona State's going at, a lot of no huddle, a lot of different people are getting involved in the offense, has clearly created a lot of confusion for Utah. You've got some guys that have been wide open, and Utah hasn't done a very good job of covering and make sure they got everyone accounted for.
They can get a first down at the Utah 2-yard line, 3rd down and 5. Daniels and White in the gun. They motion White out of the backfield. Daniels looks, surveys, throws all by himself at the goal line and in. That's a touchdown for Jalen Conyers. First touchdown of the season for Conyers. 3rd catch of the season for Conyers, and there was nobody in his area code. He was wide open.
Well, Utah's in a man coverage, and they looked like they tried to switch it off, and both guys went to the back, swinging out of the backfield. And there's just poor communication or understanding of what you're trying to do defensively, and you're going to have a player wide open.
So Christian Zendejas of the famous Zendejas kicking family on for the PAT. It's up, and it's good. And a good start for the Devils here. 9:50 to play in the first quarter. ASU marches down the field and scores a touchdown on their opening drive. They lead at 7-0. Logan Tyler, who's got 27 touchbacks this year, will tee it up. Kicking south to north here. Britton Covey back to receive this kick for Utah. 9:50 to play here in the first quarter. 7-0 Arizona State. Going to be with you tonight here from the Big O Tires broadcast booth. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell. We'll try and get to our guy Stevenson Sylvester downstairs in just a bit. Here's the kick by Tyler. It's high and end over end, and Covey will let it go out the back of the end zone for a touchback. And so now we see Cam Rising in the Utah offense for the first time tonight. Rising in the offense put up 486 yards in total offense against USC a week ago. They ran it well. They threw it well. We talked in the pregame show, Scott, about a good start. They really need one now, down 7-0.
Yeah, and what you do offensively is you march down the field and you answer back and you score, just like just give your defense a rest and but you've got to be aggressive. You've got to go have a drive right here, and you got to score points.
TJ Pledger in the ball game. Cam Rising with a 5-wide look on first down. He surveys the field, goes over the middle, incomplete. Trying to get that ball squeezed in. It looked like Prince Covey on the play. There wasn't much there. There was good coverage and good about linebacker.
You listen to the Sean Show from the Murdoch Hyundai Studio of ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
All right, we're entering John Canzano. We're connected to John. He's on the phone with us. He can hear us or we can't hear him. John Canzano, can you hear me? I hope John can hear me. I can't hear him if he's responding. Getting ugly here on the Sean O'Connell Show on a Monday. We're going to stay positive. It is game week. We're not going to let anything dissuade us from our excitement over the fact that college football kicks off in the state of Utah this week. It is Monday. You're going to get through today. Tuesday, you're going to forge through Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're going to be really antsy at work. You're going to be bothered at school. And guess what? On Thursday, it's going to be impossible for you to focus because you know that we have a game coming up at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Thursday night. The T-Birds of Southern Utah coming in. And that's going to get you off and running for a college football season. I am not going to let any technical difficulties bother me. I can't hear anything Alonzo's saying. He probably can't hear anything I'm saying. All that matters is that you can hear me. 877-353-0700. Just text me to reassure me that we're going out over the airwaves, please. I want to get back into this depth chart for the University of Utah. We spent some time on the offense. Look, most of your problems, most of your worries are washed away by QB1, by Cam Rising's presence. Kyle Whittingham talked about the way that his role is going to change. They're not going to run him as often. There's not going to be as much QB run game. This week on Thursday, I'm excited. I want to see like a quarter plus of Isaac Wilson. By the way, his brother Zach looked awesome in the preseason for the Broncos, including last night's game. It's remarkable what a player can do when you protect him, when you keep him upright, when you build confidence. It's not dissimilar from the Tua Tagovailoa situation. Whether you think it was the right thing for Tua to do to throw his old coach under the bus, he was more trying to explain to people why things were difficult for him when he started his career at Miami and why things are going so much better now under McDaniel. Look, the Jets are a mess of an organization. And we'll see if it works out with even one of the great quarterbacks of this generation, Aaron Rodgers. But Zach Wilson probably earned himself in preseason play, probably earned himself at least another couple years in the NFL, maybe a backup job somewhere. If he doesn't end up being the number 2 guy in Denver, he handled everything the right way. He praised Bo Nix. He talked about the cohesiveness in that quarterback room. And more importantly, most importantly, he played well on the field. He didn't turn the ball over. He was productive and moved the offense. And I know that preseason football is just that. It's preseason football. It's not always a great litmus test. But Zach Wilson, shout out to him. Looked great for the Broncos. Broncos not only are one of the adopted home market teams here in Salt Lake because we don't have our own squad, they also have more connections than any other NFL roster to the local universe, 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 to the local universe. Now I'm hearing myself in triplicate. Okay, that stopped. Thank you. Back to Isaac Wilson. Look, if this guy is your future, and that's the hope for all the Utah football fans, I think that's the hope for this staff. If this guy is your future, hopefully you can start figuring that out Thursday night. Hopefully you start to see how comfortable he is in real live game scenarios. Hopefully you get to see a quarter plus of Isaac Wilson playing against against Southern Utah University, excuse me. Cam Rising being back erases a lot of your worries as a Utah football fan. And I put the question out there, hey, what's your favorite thing? What's the worst thing about this depth chart? The favorite thing should be that for all of us. Cam Rising is back. He's going to join us for the Rising Report this week, as he always does all season long. He will. I want to get to the defensive side of things and decoding what this depth chart actually means. Kyle Whittingham said, I've got 7 deep at the defensive end position. The left end, the starting left end, is listed as Connor O'Toole. Now, Connor O'Toole he's like the white buffalo. You haven't seen one yourself, but you know they exist. And people who have seen the glorious majesty of that animal will gush about it, and they'll tell you how wonderful and special it is. Connor O'Toole, at his very best and healthy, gets that kind of love, gets that kind of attention, gets that kind of description from people on the staff and people in the practices and his teammates and things like that. Connor O'Toole has had those briefest flashes in games, but he hasn't been healthy. It hasn't been sustainable for him. He's listed as a starting end in a deep, deep, deep defensive end room because of that status, because of the potential, because of the upside, because of what he could be for this Utah football team. His backup is listed as the transfer from Utah State, Paul Fitzgerald, 6'3", 240, wearing number 40, roster number 40. The dude was productive on a Utah State team that had that won games a lot of us didn't think they were going to win.
You got me?
I got it. Who said that? Who said you
That's
got me?
Canzano. That's
my
Canzano.
goodness.
It's your
John,
guest.
Can I tell you how grateful I am that you have hung around for this? Can I tell
I'm
you
enjoying this. Keep talking. I'm enjoying what you're doing here.
Can I tell you how grateful I am that you just hung on while we were pushing buttons on our brand new soundboards trying to figure out how to get you on? John Canzano, my guest on the Sean O'Connell Show. Thank you, sir, for joining me. How's your day?
But it's good, and for people who don't understand, like the host will never really bellyache about your technical problems, whatever. We all deal with this stuff in regular life, but I host my own show. And we have had this exact issue, and it is disruptive because you have plans and you're locked in, and then all of a sudden it's just like real life. Somebody's ringing the doorbell while you got the phone in your hand, and the dog is loose in the yard. So I respect and have appreciation for what you're going through right now.
Well, I'm glad you're still with us, and let's talk about what I wanted to bring you on to talk about. We tried to get you. You're on vacation. I respect vacation, so I don't want to ever be like, yeah, still join me while you're on vacation. And the news cycle moves quickly, but you put out a great piece, your conversation with Kyle Whittingham a couple weeks ago, and in your discussion, Kyle Whittingham again said, hey, I think that we're due for a reshuffling. I think things are going to change again in college football. And once again, these comments got traction, and there was reaction from certain fan bases and inferences about what Kyle Whittingham thinks about the Big 12 because of it. But you were the one who actually had the discussion with him. Your takeaway from Kyle Whittingham saying, like, look, man, in whatever it is, 20 months to 4 years, everything's going to be different. Do you think he's accurate?
Yeah, and I think it was an interesting conversation because if you back up, I'm not in the Salt Lake City market, but I've talked to him frequently, and we're having this conversation in the early morning. He's in his office. I think he was a little more at ease as he was talking through things, and we talked about his mother. We talked about the expectations for the season, and then we kind of got around to what he sees. And I'd seen some prior, comments about him saying the landscape we all know is going to change. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says it's a super conference. The super conference is coming. He said 20 months to 4 years. He said whether that is 40 or 50 teams, who knows? That'll be determined. But, he talked about it as if it were a foregone conclusion. And subsequently after that, after his comments, I had several athletic directors in the Power Four who reached out to me and said, we're all hearing the same thing. We all kind of know it's going there, and it's just a matter of how it gets there. Now, the question is, the way he was talking about it, 20 months to 4 years, we all know that the contingency plan or the succession plan is in place with Morgan Scalley. Didn't sound like Kyle Whittingham's going to be part of that, or at least not as the coach. He may be in some other capacity, but it was just interesting to hear him talk about where it's going.
Yeah, I asked him about at Big 12 Media Days. I asked him about the scheduled game in 2027, Utah versus Miami. The Battle of the U. I want the bragging rights. Whoever wins that game gets to be called the U by everyone in national media for a year. I said, "Are you going to be coaching that game?" And he laughed. He's like, "I don't know about that." So that's as close to a definitive timeline as Kyle Whittingham has given any of us, I think. We know that he's nearing the end. Is this year the end in your mind, John?
He said something else in the interview, too, because he said, when we came to Utah and the plan was to go to the Pac-12, the goal was getting to a Rose Bowl, getting to the college football playoff. He didn't say win a Rose Bowl. He didn't say win a national championship. He said get there. And so, because Utah and Boise State and others were in that old Mountain West, and WAC had long just wanted to be part of the conversation. I think those were reasonable goals to set when you're making that transition. So I think he was on point there. Now he's got the Rose Bowls. The college football playoff, the national playoff is the thing that's hanging out there. And I kind of wondered, he said, this is my deepest team. I think this is the best team I've ever had. Cam Rising, he trusts. He's got great coaches. He talked about his depth being unprecedented. It just kind of felt to me that if he got to the playoff this year, there would be an awful strong temptation to kind of do what Nick Saban did at Alabama. And so I do think, of course the door is going to be open there. If he's having fun, I expect that he'll want to come back and and have another season. But I do think there is a little bit of finality to this, and that if they get to the playoff like everybody expects, it will be mission accomplished. And at that point, is that when Kyle Whittingham goes, hey, I've done enough. I've done what I came here to do. And I asked him, can you afford to look back right now and see everything that you've accomplished and where you've taken this program? And he said, not right now, but maybe at the end I will. And there was a feeling to it. Nothing tangible that he said, but there was a feeling to the conversation that led me to believe if they get to the playoff, I think there would be an awful strong temptation for him to close the door and move into another role at Utah.
Yeah, it makes sense, and to see him and Cam Rising right off into the sunset together would be a storybook ending of this era of Utah football. How realistic do you think the expectation is? And we're asking you, who you spend a lot of time covering Pac-12, and now we're saying, hey, John, still pay attention to us, even though we're in the Big 12. But you're one of the best in the business at it. So I'm going to assume you've done as much homework as most people have on this Big 12. Utah is projected to win it. They're the highest-ranked Big 12 team in the AP Top 25. How realistic do you think the expectation of a conference championship and playoff inclusion is in your first year in this new league?
Yeah, and look, I'm going to continue to cover Utah. I mean, they're a meaningful college football program that is located west of Texas, and so that's where my primary focus is all the teams and all the conferences. But this is a conference, the Big 12, that has historically been it's been all about chaos. We talked at the beginning of this segment about all the things that are going wrong during a show, or the phone ringing and the doorbell ringing. That's the Big 12. You've got all these teams that are kind of stacked with returning quarterbacks and great running backs. And you've got new teams that are coming into the conference that I think are all going to see that, this is a little bit easier conference at the top. It's no knock on the Big 12, but there's no Washington, Oregon, USC at the top of this conference that Utah will have to deal with. And Utah dealt with those programs very well and, in beating Oregon and beating USC and as these teams lined up in the last few years. So I think Utah's not going to have a problem amid that. I think they are the class of this conference. I think if Cam Rising stays healthy, that is the caveat. He's got to stay healthy. And everything goes as, health-wise, if it's not like the disastrous year of a year ago, I think Utah's going to win this conference. And I think they are going to be the team that separates. I don't see it how a lot of the national guys are saying, well, this is going to be a dogfight. All the teams will have 3 losses. I don't see that. I think Utah could come through this at 10-2 or 11-1. I think, Kansas State and Kansas are going to be good. Oklahoma State's going to be good. But keep an eye on Arizona as well. We all saw what they did a year ago, and Brent Brennan. I think Arizona's going to be a tougher out than Big 12 teams think they're going to be. And so I think they'll find some footing as well. But for me, this was a no-brainer. I think that it's Utah at the top, and I think there's a gap after that. I think they're going to get to the playoff. I think they're going to win the conference. And then the only question is that enough for Kyle Whittingham?
John Canzano is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about the Utah football outlook. And I want to shift things a little bit to the overall picture. An expanded college football playoff, whether Utah's in it or not, I've wondered if we're going to get anything really different at the end of a year in college football. Or is it going to be the blue bloods, the programs that are spending millions and millions on NIL and millions on coaching pool salaries? Is there going to be true upward mobility for the Utahs of the world, for that Liberty, if it's Liberty or Boise State or whoever gets in a 12-team playoff? Or are we doing an expanded playoff to figure out that Georgia and Ohio State are once again the 2 best teams in the country? Does anything really change when we get to the end of this season?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the same 2 or 3 suspects that are hanging around the semifinals and championship game. But what's different is, 2006, Boise State, 13-0. They go to a BCS bowl game. They beat Oklahoma. Gosh, I would have liked to see them play anybody. 2008, Utah. I would have liked to see that team play anybody. And so we're going to get those questions answered, and it'll be more definitive than most years. But I think, one question you raised is, are we going to see Georgia and Ohio State at the top? Probably. Will we see newcomers? I hope. And I hope that those campus playoff games, the number 5 seed versus the 12 seed and so on, end up being great games. I hope the group of 5 teams don't get blown off the field like Liberty was, because I think if they do, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to say, hey, we need more berths. We shouldn't give the group of 5 an automatic. I hate to see that. But, I think people in Utah know just about as well as anybody. Like in 2008, what would have happened? We don't know. I think that Utah team would have beat anybody. So we're going to get an opportunity to see those teams get to try to compete. And I think it'll feel more compelling during the regular season. Oregon and Ohio State play on October 12th. That's not an elimination game. It might have been one in years past. We're going to see more like the NFL, where the Kansas City Chiefs, middle of the season, the Chiefs had 6 losses last year. They lost to the Raiders. They, in the middle of the season, they had a string where they lost like 4 times in 6 weeks, and they didn't look like a Super Bowl winning team, and yet they put it together. And at the end, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that the Kansas City Chiefs are the world champions in football. And so I think we're going to get more of that in college football, where, a team can have a bad week or have a bad couple of weeks and come back out of it. And I think it'll change the way teams schedule moving forward. And I think it'll change the way that maybe some coaches manage games. Seen in the past where players who are injured get kind of pushed into a situation where we can't afford to lose a game. I think there's a mulligan out there for the teams that are at the top of college football. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. And this is kind of a beta test in these 2 years, because they will rework the playoff. They'll probably expand it to 14 or 16, and they'll take a look at that 12 seed. Is the 12 seed competitive? If the 12 seed is not competitive, I kind of expect, Sean, that they may say that's not an automatic berth. You have to be in the top 14 or 15 teams to also get that berth. So keep an eye on that.
One of the significant downsides of all this conference realignment and the changes in football especially, but in college athletics overall, has been the death of regional rivalries and, those games being de-emphasized. We here in Utah are lucky enough that our Holy War got restored by this last round of realignment. BYU and Utah are once again a conference opponent, conference game. My favorite day of the sports calendar in Utah every single year. It happens on November 9th this year. What is your sense of the Holy War? I know you cover both of these teams, and you cover especially Utah closely these last years in the Pac-12. What is your sense of the Holy War?
Yeah, I'm excited. And I asked Kyle Whittingham because I've never been to a Holy War game. I've only watched it from like everybody else around the country. And the fact that it's coming back together, I think, is significant and important. Yeah, I know BYU's not very good. Nobody's picking them to be better than about 12th in the conference. Even if they have an uptick, they're going to be at the bottom of this conference. But it's back. Fans can enjoy it. I'm coming out for that game. Kyle Whittingham said I need to get out, so I'm going to come cover that game and immerse myself in the rivalry. So I'd love to hear from Utah fans, love to hear from BYU fans who can help me understand what it's about. But, I've been privy to covering the Civil War football game in the state of Oregon. They're going to continue to play that. I'm glad it didn't get interrupted like the BYU-Utah series, the Apple Cup. I've been around that. I covered Purdue as a beat reporter back in the day, at Purdue and Indiana. Those games were never any good. The old Oaken bucket, they call it. For years, the fans joked that it was the old broken bucket. But the big game, Cal and Stanford, I mean, this Holy War rivalry has got something to it because of the passion of the fans and because it's everything to those fans. But yeah, BYU's probably on November 9th looking at an opportunity to kind of maybe taint or spoil Utah's run. And that's really what's at stake.
That was going to be my next question, whether you're coming. I'm really happy to hear that you'll be here. It's a special week in college football. It's a special week here, certainly in Utah. I get to ask you an Oregon question or two because this Oregon Ducks team still comes into Salt Lake and the Salt Lake Valley and down in Utah County, and they recruit the best players in Utah high school football. And this state is finally on the map like it always should have been in producing talent. That's going to be the case with Dan Lanning at the helm. Are the Oregon Ducks a national championship contender this year, John?
I think in this era, if we think about everything that has gone into realignment and branding and what TV companies value, name, image, likeness, transfer portal, I don't think there's a program in the country that has benefited more from kind of skating to where the puck is than Oregon football. Like this fell in their lap in a way. I mean, they were always trying to differentiate themselves with brand, They have Phil Knight, who is aging at 87 years old and would love nothing more than see his beloved alma mater play in the national championship game. He and his wife have poured $1 billion into Oregon over their time in donations, more than $1 billion. Ohio State visiting on October 12th is as much about Phil Knight kind of looking around and going, look, we took this podunk football operation and we turned it into something much, much bigger. And so, yeah, I think Oregon is a candidate. I also think we learned in week 0 that you better show up and play. You can't, like the preseason rankings, Florida State don't mean anything. You're a 10.5-point favorite. You go to Ireland, everybody's drinking beer, and, you can't move the ball when you need to move the ball. So Oregon's going to have to get it done on the field, but their recruiting classes are there. The investment is there. I do have questions about the coaching staff when they are locked up against Ohio State in a chess match, and Ohio State's got Chip Kelly. Will Oregon be able to outmaneuver, or do they have better players? Those are questions for another day, but I do think Oregon is justified in being viewed upon as a team that could get to the Final Four and play for a national championship.
John Canzano for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. You're probably aware that the Denver Broncos are the de facto home team for us in Salt Lake City since we don't have our own squad, and Bo Nix has been named the starter. I saw you tweeting about him earlier in the preseason, and I'm on the same page. I said from the very beginning that's a guy that he's going to emerge as a starter. I think he's going to be a really solid NFL quarterback. What's your outlook for Bo Nix this year and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, you just look at, what has happened in college athletics, and it used to be a really difficult adjustment. We all know that about, a third of the quarterbacks that are drafted in the first round will still be with their teams 4 or 5 seasons later. The rest of them are all just kind of scattered and scrambling. But what has happened in college athletics is you are seeing players like Cam Rising who are coming back for season 6, season 7. And Bo Nix is one of those guys that really benefited from, being a 24-year-old starter last season who, started his 61st game in his final game at Oregon. I mean, that's 61 college starts. I'll bring up Brock Purdy as an example. Like, everybody looks at Brock Purdy picked by the 49ers as this outlier, and what a surprise. The last guy drafted ended up as the starter. But if you look at Brock Purdy, he had 48 starts at Iowa State. There was no big deal for him to be in there. He had a lot of experience, a lot of snaps. I worry more about the more gifted rising star who maybe starts for 2 seasons and then is thrown into the NFL. But Bo Nix had 61 starts, completed 77% of his passes, threw for 4,500 yards last year. He had, 45 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions, and one of those interceptions hit his receiver in the hands. Ball bounced off for an interception. So, this is a guy who just doesn't make mistakes, and nothing is a big deal. Nothing is a big deal to Bo Nix. No, there was no moment that I looked at him and thought he was overmatched, and Utah fans saw it. I mean, I thought, he played very well, particularly the last 2 times out against Utah, and he's just a guy that I thought, so much of the NFL and the success of the NFL is about your head coach believing in you and investing in you and the organization believing in you. And where the Broncos picked him, as high as they picked him, Sean Payton as his head coach, there's no doubt the Broncos are going to go all in, setting him up for success. It's just one of those times where you see a quarterback and an opportunity that just blend so very well. I don't think that Jaden Daniels, for example, number 2 pick in this draft is in as good a position as Bo Nix. And oddly, that's just kind of the business of the NFL.
All right, last thing. I'm going to circle all the way back to the beginning when we were talking about, the long-term, the big picture changes and the conversation you had with Kyle Whittingham. We're 3 days away from Utah kicking off its football season, and that's going to take over the conversation as it should when football's actually played. But right now, behind the scenes, they're talking about closing the spring transfer window. When this settlement is going to change the way that compensation is handled, players are going to get paid. In the next 6 months, what's the big shift coming, and how does it change football as we know it, John?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is going to come outside of football, because the athletic directors I'm talking with are saying they're already starting to tier the sports within their athletic department. You notice the SEC added rowing. Why did they add rowing? It's because they want to be Title IX compliant. As they spend more on football, they're going to go in on women's rowing because, they can get away with not having a ton of scholarships there and having some investment in women's athletics. But you're going to see a tiering of sports within the athletic department. All the sports that make money, they're going to fully fund. They're going to go to the max on their rosters limits. They're going to go to the max on their scholarships. But then you're going to see athletic departments that have to start making decisions about, do we fund all the scholarships in baseball? Do we do that in softball? How about track and field and the Olympic sports? And you're going to see some investment lost on those sports. But, I keep being told by coaches that they love the idea of having as many players as they can in the football program, funding the scholarships to the limits that they can. You're going to see universities able to pay their athletes directly. So you're going to see, I think there was a real allergy in the last couple of years with some athletic departments where they said, hey, we don't want our NIL collective kind of cannibalizing our normal sponsor base. Well, guess what, folks? They are one and the same once you bring that into the athletic department fold. And the other thing I think you're going to see is you're going to see everything logoed out. You're going to see logos all over the field. You're going to see logos on the jerseys. They're going to sell every bit of real estate inside that stadium. Be prepared for that. It's going to look more like professional sports in that sense. But, those are the short-term things. And then, you're going to see some change in who you see at the top, in the top 25. There are some perennial winners that aren't going to be with it in the way that maybe some up-and-comers can be with it. So keep an eye on who those teams are. And I think it's really important in the next 2 years that Utah continue to be Utah and win games. And then for those who want to be part of that super conference, same thing. You got to win.
John, appreciate your time today. Thank you for your patience, especially as we figured out some technical difficulties at the top. And we'll be checking in before then, but when you're here for the Holy War, let's get you in studio, all right?
I'd love to do it. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
John Canzano, one of the great journalists covering college football, college sports in general in our land, johncanzano.com. He's got his own show on the Oregon airwaves statewide every Monday through Friday. That's 3 to 6 Pacific time. Big thanks to John Canzano for hanging with us. Reminder to all of you out there, ESPN 792.1 FM are happy to support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness Walk. This is happening September 7th at Veterans Memorial Park in West Jordan at 10 a.m. For more events, visit ESPN700sports.com. That's September 7th, Veterans Memorial Park in West Jordan at 10 a.m. for the Out of the Darkness Walk. All right. He touched on something that I wanted to bring up. Now's the perfect time. Athletic departments around college football are going to start making executive decisions on the other sports. We warned you about this for your Utes, for the Cougs, for the Aggies. What sports are you willing to see suffer and go away for the sake of your football teams? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
Yeah, really nice play by Cam here, and this is something that he's willing to do. The pocket breaks down, he gets outside of leverage, and he runs. I mean, he's got some wheels on him. I mean, great job. And that's a 10-yard conversion on third down. Those are huge plays right there.
3 tight ends to the left-hand side, 1 wide receiver to the right. Pledger stays in the ball game here for Utah on 1st and 10 from their own 37-yard line. Turning a give to TJ. He pushes forward for about 3, almost 4 yards. Out here about the 40-yard line goes Pledger for a gain of about 3 yards. Clock running at 8:23 to play here. Now Utah's going to go with some tempo. Rising in the gun. Look at the pass here. He's going to look long. He's got a man open up this sideline. It's caught! Devon Bailey. Another big play. A shot play down the field. Into ASU territory and down to the Sun Devil 35-yard line.
Yeah, and see, you make that play against USC. Great throw here. The receiver gives him plenty of time to throw the ball toward the boundary away from the defender. Perfectly executed play there on both sides with the receiver and the quarterback. But those are the kind of plays that give you that spark.
26 yards on that pitch and catch. They mark it at 37. Cubby, the motion man, rising under center. Pledger behind. Covey comes back in motion. They hand it to him on the fly sweep, and he's wrapped up and taken down immediately. Goodness gracious. Tyler Johnson was there, as was linebacker Kyle Soley. That'll be a 3-yard loss back to the 40-yard line. ASU seems very ready for anything at the line of scrimmage tonight.
Well, that was just a missed assignment by someone. I mean, Johnson just ran through. He wasn't even touched. It looks like it was just a blown assignment on the O-line.
5-wide look here for Utah. 3 tight ends in the ball game. Rising in the backfield, he'll move Pledger back in there with him here on 2nd down and 13 from the ASU 40-yard line. Play action, another shot down the field. This one's up and caught again. Dalton Kincaid comes down with it. Inside the 25 and down to about the 20-yard line for a 20-yard gain. Athleticism on full display on those last 2 pass plays, Scott.
Well, and it's about putting the ball in the right position. Utah's taking shots here. They want to go after ASU on this right side of the offense here.
Pledger stays in the ball game, 1st and 10 on the edge of the red zone. Covey across the Moore formation in motion. Play action again for Rising. They set up the screen to the tight end, and he goes nowhere. They set that screen pass up to call Dalton Kincaid, and I'm just telling you, you won't find a better trio of linebackers right now in the Pac-12. Those 3 guys are good, and Darian Butler sniffed that one out from the start.
Yeah, and Utah's got to, they just go past guys to go hit someone else. You got to block the first guy you see. It's like 2 ships passing in the night. The offensive lineman and the defensive lineman are passing each other, and they got to run into each other.
2nd down and 10 for the 20. Tevion Thomas in the ball game now for Utah as Rising goes under center, and now Cam changing the play. Cam turns and gives Tevion Thomas to the outside, back to the inside, stays on his feet, pushes the pile, makes something out of really nothing on that play. It's going to be tough sledding up front tonight for Utah if they don't block better. That's a 1-yard gain to the 19 into the University Credit Union red zone. DJ Davidson made the tackle.
Yeah, and that play Utah's got to get more straight ahead against this defense. Earlier in this drive when they were doing that, they were getting some push off the line. When you go lateral, it's harder to get yardage, especially with this aggressive, fast defense.
3 wides and a tailback here for Utah on 3rd down and 9. Rising to pass, looking, surveying, throwing outside. It's caught at the 15 to the 10 and out of bounds at the 9-yard line. That'll be a 1st down. Britton Covey used that quickness to free himself of the defender, and Utah set up 1st and goal at the 9.
Yeah, this is a great play here. Covey, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this year. People are just not going to cover Britton Covey with half the field, but an excellent route, wide open, and then great job by Covey to realize where he is and get the 1st down. It's a very accurate throw by Cam, hits him in stride, and that accuracy helps you to get those extra yards.
This is the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by Les Schwab Tires, your home for University of Utah football talk in the middays. Here's OC on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
It is game week on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. We have some more secrets to dissect out of the depth chart that was put out. It's like the Da Vinci Code. You just got to read between the lines. You got to know the symbology, and then you can actually determine what they're trying to tell you. It is game week. Call 801-850-9100. That's Advanced Windows, Advanced Window Products. Ask for Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City. Yes, that Nate Orchard, who's now the boss, runs the shop over there at Advanced Window Products. Tell him OC sent you and say, hey, I need windows. And OC said I can get 10 windows or more, $2,500 off. And then say, go Utes, can you do any better than that? Just put him to the test. All right? Advanced Windows, absolutely killing it. I had the pleasure of going down and touring the factory, so to speak. The most encouraging thing I've ever seen from any business, because you get all these promises that, yes, we're going to take care of you. These are warranted. We're going to make sure we service that. You've never been to a place where if you have a problem, hey, my window's broken, hey, the frame is warping,
First and
whatever.
20 for Utah. They throw the screen out here to Keithy on the near sideline. He's beyond the 30. Keithy stays on his feet.
That's how it is at Advanced Window Products. They manufacture it. They make it. They ship it from the house, the warehouse here in Salt Lake City, bring it to your house, install it, start to finish, top to bottom. They take care of you. Their own customer service department, no outsourcing. Their own sales department, no outsourcing. Manufacturing, all of it taken care of in-house. Advanced Window Products, tell them OC sent you. AdvancedWindows.com. 801-850-9100. All right, John Canzano just joined me. Jeff Schwartz is going to join me in 18 minutes. And at the tail end of our conversation with John, who, again, had a really nice piece that he put out about his talk with Kyle Whittingham, predictions for the future. His feeling is, he thinks that, hey, if Utah can make the college football playoff, Kyle Whittingham's gone. We also talked about the big picture changes coming to college football, coming to college sports. And he said, actually, maybe the biggest one is going to be outside of the football realm, because you're going to have to fund football. You're going to have to pay players. This settlement and the changing economic model in revenue-producing sports means that now you're going to say, all right, what do we do with everybody else? And the articles have been pouring out for the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so. Athletic departments are already gearing up for this. You're just going to stop spending. You're going to try to remain Title IX compliant, partial scholarships all over the place, but you're just going to stop investing like you did before in non-revenue sports. When all of this was ruled over by the NCAA and they kept you in line and said, hey, you got to do this. There's a peeling away happening. And even Utah, Mark Harlan has been open about the fact that, hey, we're going to be all in on maximizing everything for everybody. There's going to be a time when decisions are made, when executive decisions are made, and they say, do we really want to field this particular program at this particular price point? And I don't think you're going to see sports cut, but they're just going to be like, it's more of a club thing. Everyone talks about it being divided into tiers. Football, basketball, gymnastics at the University of Utah, they're going to stay in the top tier. Skiing, I guess, probably stays there. They're nationally competitive and relevant every single year.
Though, right?
So, yeah, you're right. Okay, so like, what do you like? How do you tier it? How do you divide it? Like, is Utah women's soccer going to be a tier 1 sport? Is softball and baseball going to be a tier 1 sport?
Lacrosse
is the university lacrosse didn't even have like a regionally sensical conference to compete in, and still was competing at a crazy high level. Do they say, yeah, lacrosse does good things for us? These decisions are going to have to be made, all right? So we're going to have to get comfortable with it. We're going to all have to decide, yes, of course football is going to be there. Of course basketball is going to be up there. Who else gets to be on that first tier alongside gymnastics? Who else? And who, more importantly, if you're the parent whose kid is on the tennis team somewhere and you're just like, I really wish you could stay home. I want you to play tennis at the University of Utah. All right, well, they can only offer me this, and they're only doing this, and we're gonna have to ride a bus instead of fly. It's just a lot. These things are going to be very, very different in the sports world.
Back to what Canzano was saying about Kyle stepping away if they win the playoff. If you're Kyle Whittingham, you, guy in air chair, is Kyle Whittingham, and they make the playoff, what's your decision?
I'm out. I'm gone. I'm riding off into the sunset.
It's a wrap.
Nobody does it in sports. People don't do it often enough is a more accurate way to say that in sports. If you win a conference championship and that's why you got in, and maybe you win one of those playoff games, maybe you even play outside of your mind and this team stands on its head for 4 straight weeks at the end of the year and you're a national champion, under no circumstance do I walk back into that office as the head coach.
I mean, if they win a national championship, I don't even think you're walking back into this office as the host of the show.
What do you mean? It doesn't change my life.
No, but if they win a natty, you're going to be the guy flipping cars, going up the greased light posts, the whole 9 yards.
Fair.
and not coming into this office for a while.
So your assertion is that if Utah wins a national championship, I'm not coming back to work, but that's not by my choice. That's because I've been incarcerated, probably.
Probably, yeah. Like,
Okay.
I can't wait to get that. You have gotten a phone call from Salt Lake County Jail.
Do you accept charges? And you're just like, no.
Oh, this jabroni.
I would do the thing that we used to do when we were kids at the movie theater, and when it's time to state your name for the collect call, movie's over, come pick me up. And that's how your mom knew that you had, like, because none of us could muster a freaking quarter to put into the payphone.
That's a thing, though.
Kids just don't know these days.
I have no idea of the struggles that we endured.
9-year-olds have cell phones now.
Dude, I was at the grocery store, and I swear was no older than 3. Had a brand new iPhone.
Stop it. That's bad. Hey, public service announcement. Unless there's a medical reason, like there's some kind of, I don't know, seizure detecting app on an iPhone, your 3-year-old should not have that. All right? Don't do it. Here's the thing. Kyle Whittingham is going down as the guy at the University of Utah. He's been in that chair for 20 years. We have forgotten about the growing pains.
Let's not forget there was a time where people were calling for his job.
The time was not long ago.
No.
And I actually have a problem with how often I remind people of that. I'm going to try to do it less. But Kyle Whittingham, he's going to be the GOAT coach at the University of Utah football. They're going to name a field after him. They're going to put a statue up, whatever, right? If this year it all falls into place and you win a conference championship, salute, goodbye, I'm out. Now, it gets a lot more complicated if this team is not as good as we think it is. That's where I think it's a pretty obvious solution what happens if they play the way we think they're going to play. It gets a lot more complicated if they don't. You're looking at a situation like, let's say this Utah, I'm not going to give you detailed scenarios because that's bad juju, right? But let's just say that this team backs its way into a college football playoff, loses in the first round of the college football playoff. I mean, technically, you've checked the box. You wanted to make a college football playoff, but it doesn't have the same feeling. You know what I mean? You're not riding off into the sunset the same way. And maybe you're looking at next year and you're saying, well, so-and-so got injured this year, and that's why we didn't live up to our potential. Cam, you have another year if we can convince you to take it. Or maybe by then I'm high enough on Isaac Wilson, and maybe Jerome Miles commits because he knows he's going to play with Isaac Wilson. And now you're a head coach who's making $6 million a year and loves his job and is the absolute king of the state. And you're going, why would I ever leave? Look how bright the future is here. What did Kyle Whittingham say at the press conference today?
Really, it's what didn't he say today?
Future's so bright, I got to get my shades on.
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham said it, right? It gets a lot more complicated in my mind, Alonzo, that decision-making process, if you don't have a great year.
So let's say, okay, and again, this is just, I know we shouldn't look ahead, but as fans, that's what happens. Like you said, if it ends up being a year where it's, for lack of a better term, a little disappointing, is the expectation also then that Cam comes back?
You can't do that. You can't put that expectation out there. And we could talk to Cam about it. We could talk to Cam about it when he comes and joins us for the Rising Report this week. But every indication is that this is his last year. I think something serious would have to change in order for that to be a different thought process. And he's a guy who wants to play in the NFL. You can't keep kicking the can down the road and hope that an NFL GM is just like, I don't care that you're 26 and a half. We're still going to give you the same opportunity that we would have a year ago. It's not hard and fast rule. I mean, who was it? Brandon Whedon that ended up as like a rookie 28, 29-year-old. Like these things, if Cam Rising has a Heisman contending year this year, like the narrative around him changes significantly anyway. So I don't know. To go back to your question, which came from talking to John Canzano, his prevailing feeling is what a lot of us have been thinking about. Kyle Whittingham, we're nearing the end. Where's the right breaking point? Winning a championship, achieving a higher height than your team ever has with a bunch of upperclassmen who are going to be moving on, that's the ideal breaking point in my mind. I'm gonna ask you a would you rather question about Kyle Whittingham on the other side. I'm gonna put all of you Utah football fans to the fire, and I'm gonna ask you what you would rather have related to Kyle Whittingham moving on or not. Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
Daniels. White stays in the ball game, is the tailback. Daniels in the backfield. He'll backpedal to pass. Surveys, fires, outside, caught, and is it caught? Jalen Conyers there. Boy, I thought he juggled that going to the ground. They'll say that's a catch as he picks up 6 yards at the 12-yard line and a first down.
Yeah, and Utah didn't even have anyone on him at all. But, yeah, it's a catch. He got it completely in his grasp.
So first down and 10 for Arizona State on the opening drive of the ball game. To the Utah 12 they go. Turn in a toss sweep to the left-hand side. They've got a man at the 10. They've got a man at the 5. That's Pearsall. And a flag flies. I think we're going to have another holding penalty here on ASU.
Holding. Offense. Number 74.
Yep, they're going to get Casey Hatch. Another one of those hybrid wide receiver tight ends on the hold that time. That erased what would have been about a 4-yard gain inside the 10 to Pearsall. And back it up now outside the 20-yard line.
Yeah, and you hold on that edge like that, it's pretty easy for that official to see. So if you're going to hold, you got to hold on the inside, guard area.
First down and 20, back at the 22-yard line. Daniels, hands, running back, near side, running room, inside the 10. And all the way down to the 8-yard line goes Rashad White. Fabian Marks on the tackle again. He's been busy here early. Pickup of 14 yards on the play. Second down and 6 now. Daniels empties the backfield, backpedals into the shotgun. 3 right, wide right, 2 wide left here for Daniels. Surveys, looks, scrambles out to his right-hand side, throws to the end zone, back of the end zone, caught and dropped. Oh, he had a man open. That was Andre Johnson who had it on the back line and dropped it. That'll bring up third down.
Yeah, right now this pace that Arizona State's going at, a lot of no huddle, a lot of different people are getting involved in the offense, has clearly created a lot of confusion for Utah. You've got some guys that have been wide open, and Utah hasn't done a very good job of covering and make sure they got everyone accounted for.
They can get a first down at the Utah 2-yard line, third down and 5. Daniels and White in the gun. They motion White out of the backfield. Daniels looks, surveys, throws all by himself at the goal line and in. That's a touchdown for Jalen Conyers. First touchdown of the season for Conyers. Third catch of the season for Conyers, and there was nobody in his area code. He was wide open.
Well, Utah's in a man coverage, and they looked like they tried to switch it off, and both guys went to the back, swinging out of the backfield. And there's just poor communication or understanding of what you're trying to do defensively, and you're going to have a player wide open.
So Christian Zendejas of the famous Zendejas kicking family on for the PAT. It's up, and it's good. And a good start for the Devils here. 9:50 to play in the first quarter. ASU marches down the field and scores a touchdown on their opening drive. They lead at 7-0. Logan Tyler, who's got 27 touchbacks this year, will tee it up. kicking south to north here. Britton Covey back to receive this kick for Utah. 9:50 to play here, the first quarter. 7-0 Arizona State. Going to be with you tonight here for the Big O Tires broadcast booth. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell. We'll try and get to our guys, Stevens and Sylvester, downstairs in just a bit. Here's the kick by Tyler. It's high and end over end, and Covey will let it go out the back of the end zone for a touchback. And so now we see Cam Rising in the Utah offense for the first time tonight. Rising in the offense, put up 486 yards of total offense against USC a week ago.
We'll talk some.
They ran it well. They threw it well. We talked in the pregame show. Scott about a good start. They really need one now. Down 7-0.
Yeah, and what you do offensively is you march down the field and you answer back and you score. Just like
I got a would you
just
question for you.
give your defense a rest
put it
and
out
just.
There. I don't want you to say a word. I just want you to think. All right. Based on the conversation we were just having, John Canzano thinks that Kyle Whittingham, if he checks the boxes, if he wins a championship, if he gets into the playoff, Kyle Whittingham's going to move on after this year. We've talked about it. We think about it sometimes. What would you rather have as a Utah fan? Big 12 championship this year. You make it to the college football playoff this year. But you don't win at one of those playoff games. You just make it in. So you check those boxes. Would you rather have that and then Whit rides off to the sunset, or would you rather have Kyle Whittingham for 3 more years? Build this thing for 3 more years. See if you can get better recruiting classes as you've done every single year, basically, for 3 more years, and then watch what happens. What would you rather have? Whit for 3 more years? 3 more years of certain respect and contender status in Power 4 football? Or instant gratification, give me the championship now. Just think about that, Alonzo. We'll talk about it in a second. A new partner joining the show. If you've been driving around in Midvale and you've seen this beautiful corner spot on Main Street called Farmer and Chemist, hopefully that made you curious enough to go to farmerandchemist.com. But if you haven't, well, like I said, new partners on the show, and Jeff from Farmer and Chemist is going to tell us a little bit more about what they've got and what they're offering to our ESPN 700 listeners. Jeff, welcome. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
We're doing all right. So I say that because I describe myself driving around in Midvale, and you see this, like, it's got the old school aesthetic, the beautiful font and the signage and all that stuff. And I'm like, Farmer and Chemist. What is Farmer and Chemist about? So tell our folks what you guys are all about.
Yeah, we are trying to add a little science and quality to the CBD space. And so we are a pharmacist-owned and pharmacist-driven CBD company. So we offer a lot of products that are high quality, and we want to have conversations with people so that they have a good experience when they're using CBD.
So when people here think of CBD, I think, there's maybe folks who know a lot about it. There's some folks who are brand new to it, and you've got such a range of products, but we're talking about CBD that has so many different uses. What's the primary driver right now for most people who are visiting Farmer and Chemist for the first time?
Well, that's a great question. So you're right. I mean, people probably hear CBD and they probably have a lot of misperceptions. They might think marijuana. They may have tried it before and got hemp oil, which doesn't work. So CBD is actually an amazing thing from a science perspective, but it's well documented that it works for pain, inflammation, sleep, and anxiety. And it works really well. And then there's a bunch of other stuff, but those are the 4 main primary conditions that are well documented. And if you use a good quality CBD, you're probably going to find some relief.
And by the way, if you have pets, especially aging pets, this is where actually my primary experience with CBD has come in my own life. My wonderful dog, Mr. President, got to almost 12 years old as a Mastiff breed. And, the hips and the knees and everything else, he tore his ACL. Everything starts to go. And with those big dogs especially, they get the pain. You guys have a great line of pet products.
Absolutely. So CBD works very similarly in dogs and cats, just like it does in humans. Since I had a German Shepherd growing up that had hip dysplasia, and I wish I would have had CBD because it would have helped a lot. So it does. So we have tinctures, we have chews, we have a lot of things that work well in pets as well. Yep.
So listen, if you're dealing with a little anxiety, maybe you just aren't sleeping all that well, some muscle soreness. You guys were kind enough to come by the studios the other day, gave me a little the salve you have, the CBD salve you have. My wife's having just awful back soreness. Rub some of that on there. Boom. It starts to get better immediately. I'm telling you, if you haven't checked them out yet, farmerandchemist.com. Better yet, go down to Main Street in Midvale, and you'll feel like you're walking back in time. The exterior of this shop is so beautiful, but inside, it's all science-driven CBD products at Farmer and Chemist. Jeff, we're going to be doing giveaways for our listeners, right?
Absolutely. We have some gift cards. And also, thanks for that reminder. Anybody that goes in the store or goes online and buys something, if you use ESPN 700, we will apply a 20% discount.
There's no reason. You have no excuse not to check it out. Farmerandchemist.com. Head down there to Main Street. And, of course, as always, drop the ESPN 700. Tell them OC sent you. Jeff, thanks for being partners with the show. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate you.
Hey, looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, Alonzo, before we take a break and we get to Jeff Schwartz, I gave you the Would You Rather. I put it out on the Twitter poll. Most of the time I have 4 answers. This time I've only given you 2. All right, would you rather have a Big 12 championship this year, or would you rather keep Kyle Whittingham in that office for 3 more years?
I'm going Big 12 championship.
Instant gratification. Give it to me now. You're part of this Zennial generation, the Gen Z folks who don't have any patience.
Well, I like to win, so that's why, Sean. I'm sorry that I like to win. If you ain't first, you're last, Sean.
Okay, but that's the subtext of this conversation. You want to win a championship now. We all do. But if Kyle Whittingham stays at the University of Utah, you're guaranteed to have winning seasons basically for the next 3 years.
And I get that, but I also don't want to hold Kyle Whittingham hostage, if I'm totally honest with you.
Stop it. This has nothing to do with the calculus on your answer. You don't care about his quality of life.
I absolutely do.
You don't want him going off. You know how bored Kyle Whittingham is going to be if he doesn't have to ride that old mountain bike into the offices every day?
Here's the thing. He's absolutely going to ride his Indian motorcycle just around at all times, and he's going to be blissful.
It's a great bike. Can we get the Indian shop to come in and, sponsor the Sean O'Connell show?
I don't see why not. I mean, we're shooting our shot right now.
Yeah. Folks down at Indian Motorcycles. Holler at us. You do have
So you're telling me, so just so I'm on the same page, if I want the chip now, that I want instant gratification. How dare you, sir?
That's the overwhelming answer so far. The poll has not been out for very long, but 77% of the votes say, give me the Big 12 championship this year, even if it means Kyle Whittingham's leaving.
I mean, it would also be another feather in the prolific cap of Kyle Whittingham.
Look, I want the storybook ending for Kyle Whittingham's career as much as anyone else does. I want him to win a championship, win a playoff game, maybe win a national championship, and say, all right, guys, that was fun.
No, if he had a shot at a natty, even a semifinal, if that happened, Kyle, there's nothing else to do here.
You're absolutely right. If you have achieved the highest high in the history of this football program, and you're 60-plus years old, and you've been talking about it and pondering it and thinking about it for a couple years, why not? But you know what? That's the last we're going to discuss it until the end of the season, because it is game week. We are 3 days away from Utah versus Southern Utah. Jeff Schwartz going to join me in 3 minutes to talk about what's coming. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. If you're not already following ESPN 700 on YouTube, our new YouTube channel is up. We're live, so you can see it and hear me at the same time, which is something that nobody really wants, but we offer it to you anyway. And I just put on the number one accessory of the season. So if you're into fashion, got the old media credentials today. Porter Larson went up there, was holding it down for us at the Kyle Whittingham press conference. First one of the year. So the collected media got the old credential, and that's my beautiful face on a Utah football season press pass. Woo, boy.
You clean up nicely.
Let me tell you something. That is a picture slightly outdated. Probably need to this is better, though. This one actually has me dressed. There were a few seasons where my Jazz credential and my Utah football credential had a shirtless UFC profile pic as my as my media press pass photo.
The photo that you should have is the one you booping the guy.
it's like an almost a from behind type photo. You can't see enough of my face.
Or hear me out. There's a couple out there with you getting punched in the mouth. I think that's the move.
Why do you relish these painful moments?
That's what friends do, Sean, okay?
Here's the thing. I don't like, at this point, I'm so far removed from my fight career that it's hard for people to understand that I was decent at it. And if they had no idea that I ever did it and they go try to find me on the internet, it's all bad for me. 90% of the photos are me getting punched in the face, and I think 4 of the 5 readily available videos you could watch on YouTube of my fights, I think 4 of the 5 are losses.
I mean,
it's not
at least
ideal.
you're on YouTube. I mean, that's the upside.
It's not good. No,
you're not showing the kids that, right?
No. Make sure you go follow the show's YouTube on ESPN 700.
And at
Subscribe.
OC Show 801.
OC Show 801 is the new handle.
Bro, I almost fought a child for that handle. That's where we were at.
There was a young person who had that handle?
I think so. So every once in a while for my Instagram, I'll get messages from random coffee shops in the Philippines. They're like, hey, we want to have at Beanstagram. Can we have that? And I was like, okay, this is the most that's ever going to happen, right? It happened a lot for me trying to get OC Show 801.
Wow.
Maybe it's like Orange County Sports or something.
Yeah, could be. But why would they put the 801 in there?
Well, that's what I was thinking too. But then again, I don't trust Elon Musk, so it's hard to say.
It's hard to know what's going on. All right, we're efforting. Jeff Schwartz going to connect with us. He joins me at the beginning of the week. NFL season is coming, just like football season for college athletics is rapidly approaching. Jeff is a longtime NFL veteran. He's also a betting expert. So for all of you out there who like to enjoy a good friendly wager, of course, only like betting lunch and pizza and things like that. But yeah, Jeff will have some advice on that front for us as well. I've been spending some time today breaking down and sort of dissecting what we saw on the depth chart. And we got to Connor O'Toole and Paul Fitzgerald is all on the defensive side of the ball. Junior Tafuna, no surprise, listed as a starter. Aliki Vimahi is his backup. That's the way it has been at the University of Utah. No surprises there. Keanu Tanuvasa, Tavita Fotu, or Samote Pepa. Now, this is where, again, reading between the lines, you're going to see all these guys play, all right? 58, 95, 57, 99, 77. You're going to see all of those numbers on the field every game as long as everyone's healthy. The message that is sent here by the depth chart is just that you should feel good as a Utah football fan about your defensive front. Because Samote Pepa is a good enough tackle, good enough defensive tackle to be starting at most schools in the Big 12. And he is listed as, in this format at least, he's listed as like the third guy. At right end, Logan Fano, Van Fillinger, K.O. Akana. So Kyle Whittingham told us they went 7 deep. There's 5 deep for you. Connor O'Toole and Paul Fitzgerald on one end. Logan Fano or Van Fillinger listed as the starters. And K.O. Akana. By the way, every one of those guys you are going to see, plus probably John Henry Daly, plus who knows, whoever else. And there will be times, and I hope we see it against Southern Utah, they might keep that one in the bag for at least Baylor or Utah State or maybe all the way to Oklahoma State. There will be times where you're going to see probably 4 defensive ends on the field in obvious passing downs. And just go stand up, spin move around those guards, run a nifty little cross in front of the center. Let's go. It won't happen often, especially because you have some high-quality pass rushers on your interior defensive line. But when that's the deepest position group on your team, you're going to find a way to get all those guys on the field. At linebacker, this one is really fascinating for me. This one is interesting because you've got Karene Reed listed as your starting rover. You've got Sione Fotu listed as your starting Mac. And you've got Lander Barton listed as your starting stud linebacker. You're always going to have your rover and your Mac on the field, even in a nickel situation. Lander Barton is listed as the stud. Opposing personnel groupings are oftentimes for Utah going to dictate that you don't have 3 linebackers on the field. At least that's the traditional thinking when teams are running the spread and they've got a bunch of guys out wide. In those scenarios, are you taking Lander Barton off the field? The obvious answer is hell no. So does he move over to Mike linebacker? Does Karene bump over and you make Lander the rover? Maybe they figure out that Lander actually has some pass rushing acumen like we used to see them do with Devin Lloyd. Maybe you walk him up and let him rush the passer a little bit. Maybe you even let him put his hand in the dirt. He's as big as some of your defensive ends. So why not do that? The base defense for Utah football is a 4-3, but the base defense for Utah football based on personnel groupings of opposition is oftentimes a 4-2-5, is a nickel defense. More so in the Pac-12 than it will be, I think, in the Big 12, but that was the case very often last year. You had 3 linebackers on the field in the minority of reps. Jeff Schwartz, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you faintly, buddy.
Do you want me to just yell, or can we turn up the volume?
No, we got to turn you up somehow.
All right. We'll give it a minute. Jeff needs me to be turned up, Alonso. He can barely hear me, so we'll find a way to do that, and then I'll get to Jeff. Everyone is being so cool and so patient with us today as we try to figure out the technical difficulties associated with having new boards installed. But Rover, Mac, Stud, Karene Reed, Sione Fotu, Lander Barton. I think that Lander Barton is going to play all 3 of these positions throughout the course of the year. And yes, sometimes you will have 3 backers on the field. A lot of times you won't. The cornerback spot. Kyle Whittingham said in his press conference today, first press conference of the season, he said, yeah, corner probably is our thinnest position. I hate hearing that. Now, there was some.
There we go.
Is that better? Jeff can hear me now.
You got me.
All right.
There's an echo, though. I hear myself. Whatever. I'll battle through it.
Oh, it's one of those days, Jeff Schwartz. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. I mean, besides hearing myself talk, it's fantastic.
James and Alonzo are working on it. They'll try to get the reverb out of your ear. All right. Like I said to all of you people listening, Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, which we forgive him for. We'll be checking in with him Mondays or Tuesdays throughout the season after the NFL games are in the books. Preseason winding down, kind of done. We saw some former BYU Cougars looking good. We saw some former Utes looking good. I got to start asking you about Zach Wilson because he had a really nice preseason in Denver. And Bo Nix has been named their starter. He should be. He looked great. What is Zach Wilson's future in your mind?
So he seemed downright giddy. Awesome. Like I think that's what he is now. He's just a backup, you know? We've seen him start enough in the NFL to know that he's not a starting caliber quarterback, and that's fine. Plenty of guys play many, many years and make great careers about being backup caliber players. And that's what he is at this point of his career. And again, nothing wrong with that. But he's just a backup quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I actually was thinking about this yesterday when I was watching the game. Like, having a quarterback like Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham, either or, like, who's seen a lot of football is helpful for a backup quarterback, because you want those guys to come in and not be, the moment be too big, have not played before, don't know how to play on the road, don't understand how play calls work. Like, to me, that's the type of backup you want. And so I think that's what he fits perfectly as
So as a backup, you make great money. You don't have a ton of pressure. Every once in a while, you got to play outside of yourself and hopefully help a team win a game. Zach Wilson was kind of broken when he left the Jets. Do we believe in Sean Payton in Denver enough to rebuild his psyche and his confidence to where maybe someday he can be like at least a spot starter? All right, as the preseason starts to wind itself down, there are teams that have contract disputes outstanding. The 49ers still have to figure out what they're going to do with Ayuk and Trent Williams. And I think Trent Williams is just holding out because he doesn't want to have to play in the preseason and he doesn't want to participate in camp. But you would know more about that than me. The Cowboys got things resolved with their top flight wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, 4 years, $136 million. Jeff, I will never get used to wide receivers making this kind of money. Second highest paid non-quarterback in league history for CeeDee Lamb. Is he worth it? The Chiefs get Juju back. Juju Smith-Schuster is rejoining the Chiefs, and the Chiefs seem like they solve all the problems that come up on the roster without the same kind of I don't know, difficulty that everyone else does. I made the analogy on social media last week that the Chiefs, for me, in the NFL, are that family that you grew up with. They live on your block. They go to your school, whatever. And, the mom and the dad are both really good-looking and successful, and the kids are smart and tall and funny and cool and nice. And there's no reason for you not to like them because they're just they're the American dream. They're the all-American family. But you just start to resent them for being better at everything, including roster management. Is this another one of those moves that the Chiefs are making? He was the leading receiver for a Super Bowl team. Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He'll join us every week to talk the football weekend that was, to talk about everything going on in college football. All right, let's get to the Utes, a team that you begrudgingly had to follow closely for, I guess, the 6 years we did radio together, and the whole time they were in the same conference as your Oregon Ducks. You started out this week, Thursday night game against Southern Utah. Southern Utah not perceived to be a significant threat, but in a game like this one, what are you looking for from the Utes to say, oh, yeah, that's a team that's on track to win a Big 12 championship? Yes, well done. They did almost beat Arizona State. Much different roster than what Utah's got at Arizona State, but your point stands. It's just the habit. It's hard to break. Yes. Kyle Whittingham had his opening press conference, first one of the season, and they've been kind of coy about some of the, hey, how much is Cam Rising going to run, and ask Cam about it, and he wants to run still, but he's going to be careful. Coach Witt was pretty clear. No, we've told Cam, get your butt down on the ground, and there's not going to be nearly as much designed QB run game. Clearly, protecting Cam is going to be one of the priorities this year. Does it create a problem for the offense when you've got a governor on a guy who is ungovernable. All right, Jeff Schwartz is going to stick around for the hour here, or at least for the next 15 minutes, and then we'll get to some crosstalk with Spence. But I'm going to ask Jeff the Would You Rather I put out at Real OC Sports on social media. We'll get his answer on whether he would rather win a Big 12 championship this year or keep Kyle Whittingham for 3 more. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
From the Utah 49, first down and 10 here for USC. 2:25 to play in the third. Trojans, blitz, off the edge. Slovis throws it away. Nobody there. Is that grounding?
That's got to be grounding.
Did he get outside the box?
16 was in the area of the pass.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 16 really wasn't in the area. He was about 15 yards further downfield. That was Taj Washington, but it was Malone Mataele coming off that edge on that nickel blitz.
And an interesting look. I mean, Utah sold out. There were no safeties in the middle of the field, giving Slovis different looks.
Second down and 10 from the Utah 49-yard line now as they hand it off. Darwin.
Hold.
Yep, there's a hold. There's the flag. He goes for nothing, Darwin Barlow, and that's going to back USC up 10 yards. And if you're Utah, you don't care about the down. You back them up
Holding.
the yardage right now.
74 of the offense. This is a 10-yard penalty. It's still second down.
Because, Scott, now I think we are in 4-down territory wherever USC happens to be.
Have to be. What's weird is the first two plays they throw the ball down the field and then they get kind of concerned. I'm not complaining. I just don't understand it.
So it'll be second down now and 20, all the way back at the SC 41-yard line. Barlow stays in the game as the back. They split London way out wide to the left-hand side. He's man-covered out there by Clark Phillips. Now Slovis backs up into the shotgun again here on second down and 20. Waits on the snap, takes it, backpedals, four-man rush, throws it out into the flat. He's got Barlow there. Barlow is not going to go very far. He gets beyond the 40 and now pushes it a little bit. Not a bad game. Utah actually had him for a minute, and then he picked up about 6 yards out to the 47-yard line. It's a third down, and we'll call it 14 coming up here for the Trojans as we go under 90 seconds to play in the third quarter. Utah leading it by 25. Yes, I said they're leading it by 25. Third down and 14, two-down territory perhaps here for USC. Slovis ready. Now he'll change the play at the line of scrimmage. Minute 10, minute 9, minute 8 as the clock continues to run. Utah shifts it personnel now. Slovis backpedals. Four-man rush off the edge. Throwing down the field. London incomplete. Clark Phillips knocks it away. Phillips getting better and better as the night goes along. Breaks it up again. That'll bring up fourth down and 13. Make it 14, and the punt team comes back out for USC.
Great job by Clark Phillips. I mean, he's one-on-one here, but he knows that he gets to about 15 yards. He just sits.
Don't send it through the big boxes. All right? My friends over at Postnet will take way better care of your stuff. They will make sure it gets there quick, on time. They'll make sure it gets there with the cheapest, most efficient shipping option. That's just what they do, and they do it because they care. Tell them OC sent you. Get down to Postnet. Say hello to the dogs. Make sure you pet them. Give them a treat. Ask them about virtual mail. They're in Draper, North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, and West Valley. Do not entrust your care packages to anyone except for Postnet. Make sure that Utes gear gets there on time and in good shape. They'll ensure the packages for you. They can handle all your printing and shipping needs. I've actually sent Jeff Schwartz Utah gear before in the mail. Is that not correct, Jeff Schwartz? No, not yet. Although the temperature dipped down below 80 degrees for the first time in months, and everyone was acting like pumpkin spice time. Not yet. Not yet. Oh, yes, we're all very basic out here, all right? Unapologetically. All right. I just threw out a would you rather today based on a conversation. John Canzano came on the show. He had spoken with Kyle Whittingham a couple weeks back, and I asked him if he thinks this is it for Kyle Whittingham, and he said, I think if he wins the league and makes the college football playoff, the sense John Canzano got was that this would be the end, and we've speculated on that. We've talked about that. You've got your coach-in-waiting situation with Morgan Scalley. Kyle Whittingham has been very public and more so over the years about not wanting to stick around forever. So I put the would you rather out. I threw it at you right before we went to the break. A Big 12 championship this year, which means you get to go to the college football playoff, or Kyle Whittingham for 3 more years. What would you rather have? Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that the question about Kyle Whittingham's future is actually a lot more complicated if they don't win. If if they don't deliver on expectations and they're not the team that we expect them to be this year, then I think the conversation changes somewhat, and you start looking at, well, all right, if I come back for one more ride or two more rides, or can we develop this young talent? Because they're like a lot of teams that have benefited from recent success. They're getting better and better. Their recruiting classes are incrementally better each year, and they're getting guys in the transfer portal that you didn't used to get. So that's why I even threw the question out there, because 3 more years of Kyle Whittingham and the stability and the consistency in a really uncertain time in college football, I mean, that appeals to some people. Dorian Singer came to this University of Utah football team that was at least partially the reason. Like, I know they're good. I think at their very best, they can be great, but I know they're good. I know I can finish out and have a really solid year. And those things, you didn't used to get a lot of those guys. So, all right. Well, it'd be even cooler if you got that first round bye because you were the conference champion. And, of course, like you said, you're that 3 or 4 seed in that case, which would be just absolutely spectacular. It would be awesome. You might actually be willing to travel to that game. I hope you do. The Schwartz family, I wish that we had a direct crossover from our Pac-12 Today audience to this show, because if everyone was even vaguely aware of the legendary status of your kids and your wife and how hilarious they are, then we could do a whole week's worth of shows just on your visit to my house. But alas, we're going to have to educate people again. Which means you just need to let mom pick your clothes. Okay, well done. I like that. All right, you've been part of some prolific offenses as a player. What's the maximum tight end usage allowable? Because Utah put out their first depth chart of the actual season, and there's 6 dudes listed. They've got high hopes for all of them. Just at tight end. Like, they got the Y tight end and the U tight end. They got the J tight end. Just kidding, no J tight end. But like they go deeper at tight end than at any other position on the entire team, even positions that, like wide receiver, you're supposed to have a bunch of guys at your disposal. They got more tight ends on the depth chart. What's the maximum usage allowed for tight ends? There's a couple of oars. Yeah, there's an oar on each of the tight end positions. You know what I was amazed by? I don't know why I even saw this, but Oklahoma, I looked at the Oklahoma depth chart, and there's not a single oar on the depth chart at Oklahoma. There wasn't one oar. I was looking for that specifically, and it was just like first, second, third string. Boom. Yeah, oar. Yeah. Of course. Yes. Naturally. I'm actually super bummed out because I have to travel to do PFL duties for the Baylor game, and I have to I don't get to be at every single game for Utah this year, which is it's going to be a little bit problematic for me. Not gonna feel good. Well, let's talk about that. The lines for Utah in games like this, they're a little bit scary, right? Because you're looking for the over is set at 52.5. Okay. All right. And I think you told me that the spread was like 38. They're like minus. See, that to me, that's almost a taste thing. If this game is as widely distributed, if there's as large of a gap talent-wise between these two rosters as I think there is, but, this is an in-state opponent. You don't like to beat on them up as much as you like to beat up on other teams. Maybe you're really committed to resting certain guys, and you want to move the clock along as quickly as you possibly can. Changes the complexion of scoring when these games are such, mismatches, for lack of a better term. Yeah, you're right. All right, opening weekend, we had the week 0 games. Florida State loses, gets upset in Dublin by Georgia Tech. Is this informative of the fact that these preseason polls mean nothing? Is this you're sticking a fork in Florida State? They're that overrated? Because mathematically, you're not out. These are not elimination games anymore with a 12-team college football playoff and with automatic inclusion for conference championships and things like that. I don't want to just focus on Florida State too much because you got to give Georgia Tech their flowers, especially that run game. But when you look at this, you say, oh, yeah, Florida State's out. All right, last thing before I let you go. Huge slate of opening weekend games. A&M, Notre Dame, Clemson, Georgia. What's your favorite matchup of this opening weekend? Jeff Schwartz will be checking in every single week of the college football season, and we'll keep him around for an hour. Thanks for hanging with us through the technical difficulties. Appreciate you, my friend. Great stuff, as always, from Jeff Schwartz. He's taking the over in the Utah SUU game. Doesn't like the 38-point spread.
I don't like it either.
For your entertainment purposes. I don't. Cause he brought up that a couple years ago, the Weber State spread. Same exact situation. Weber State a better team comparatively, but still, like, Utah was better at every position for the most part. Not even for the most part. They were better at every position. And it ends up being a close game because you're getting, all these Weber State guys and all these SUU guys are hoping that they can grab attention from Utah coaching staff members. It's crazy.
Have you laid out your clothes for Thursday?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, I told you I got to freshen up my Utah threads, man. I don't know. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not making any accusations, but it feels like maybe somebody went through and got rid of some of my stuff. It feels like that.
Do you need to put some shades on to cover the shade that's, about to come over the O'Connell household?
I'm letting you know that it feels like my closet was cleaned out by someone who's not me. Feels like that.
Do we need to get an investigation going?
That would not end well for anyone, so I'm going to refrain. All right. Spence Checketts, the drive is coming up next, but we got to give away some tickets. We have FightCon tickets. Future is coming. Who else is coming? Jason Aldean is coming. I'm going to give away Jason Aldean tickets.
What's your beef with Future?
What do you mean?
The way you made it, Future's coming, and then you got really excited about Jason Aldean.
I got no problem with Future, but Jason Aldean, I think, is more consistent with the demographic of this show.
I accept that answer. Reluctantly, but I accept it.
I have a trivia question for you on the other side. If you answer correctly, you will get Jason Aldean tickets and FightCon tickets. 877-353-0700. Get your texting fingers ready. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.
Cam Rising at the line of scrimmage, changing the play. First down handoff, Pledger into the hole, spins off a tackle, gets to the 16-yard line, picks up a yard, and that's it. They ran right at the teeth, and Utah got no push up front that time. Tackle on the play by Rover linebacker Raymond Scott.
Yeah, this is just a straight-ahead zone read here. The tight end pulls and tries to seal that backside and just gets there a little late and kind of gets the play blown up. But, this Utah team's got to come off the ball here.
4 wide look on 2nd down and 9 from their own 16. USC with 4 at the line of scrimmage, 7 in the box. Play action, flanker screen thrown out into the flat to Britton Covey. He's got it at the 20 and spun down. That's Brant Keithy, actually, who came up with that grab. We're a distance away from the field. The 8s and the 0s get mixed up. Keithy picks up about 4 on the play. 3rd down and 5 coming up.
Seeing a better job of 2nd down. Utah's shown so much.
I love the food, but the rest of it is just too much. I like the museums. Wrapping up the Sean O'Connell Show. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next. Before we get there, 877-353-0700. This is a deep cut for the Jason Aldean tickets and the Fight Con tickets. Going all the way back to my conversation with John Canzano, who was kind enough to join me on the show today. John Canzano, we talked about Bo Nix and the numbers he had last year at the University of Oregon. How many interceptions did Bo Nix throw last season for the Ducks? 877-353-0700 if you know the answer. Fight Con tickets, Jason Aldean tickets, Spence Checketts. We have new equipment here in the studio, new boards. It's even better that all the troubleshooting was done on my live show instead of yours.
We crawled so you could run.
Yes. That's exactly right. Good to see you. Yes, I got what are the kids saying? I got the new drip. I've got my my media credential. I don't know what that means. Oh. Okay. What? Charisma's not a dirty word, but calling it Riz makes it sound like it could be a dirty word. So I don't like that. But anyway, kids, I've got that too. Yeah, it's like photographer, writer, philosopher, SiriusXM genius, ESPN 700 radio host.
I believe Esquire is on there too.
Esquire. Correct. I demand to be called the PFL play-by-play guy on my Utah football credential. I think you mean World Mixed Martial Arts Commentator of the Year. Yeah, well, I don't mind. Okay, what's coming up on the drive? What? What? Oh. I can't believe it's back. Yeah. Yes, we know who it is. No, it's Bohannon. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. All right. Well, there go all the BYU listeners, and we got millions. I figured that would be the case. Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. The answer to the trivia question, by the way, 45 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions for your starting quarterback for the Broncos, Bo Nix. Wow, what a year. He is efficient. RoboCop, that's my nickname for him. He's a good player. And Zach Wilson had a strong preseason. Hopefully gets to be the backup. Football's here, people, and we're all happy for it. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties, especially to John Canzano and Jeff Schwartz. We're back tomorrow on ESPN 700.